everyone, welcome to Happy New Church. Hello, 大家好，歡迎嚟到希信教會。I'm so happy that we can be able to share this worship time together. 好開心咧，我哋可以咧一同一齊去到敬拜主。Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come quickly. Your will be done the same. 我們在天上的父，你的名為聖，願你的國降臨，願你旨意成全。On earth as it is in heaven, let heaven come to earth as it is in heaven, let heaven come to earth as it is in heaven, let heaven come to earth as it is in heaven, let heaven come. 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 願你國降臨，願你國降臨，願你國降臨，願你國降臨。Let heaven, let heaven come. Let heaven come. Let heaven come. Let heaven come. 願你國降臨。Let's declare to yourself. Let's declare this to your home. Let's declare this to your work. Let His kingdom come. Let heaven come. Let heaven come. Let heaven come. Let heaven come. The atmosphere is changing now, for the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here. Sing it again. The atmosphere is changing
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Happy News Church online service.
大家好啊，歡迎嚟到喜信教會嘅網上崇拜。
I am really looking forward to being in person again for church.
我希望咧，大家可以咧，即係好快咧，一齊可以面對面咁樣咧喺教會見面。
This online setting is pretty cool, but nothing beats meeting in person. So April 24, I'm ready for you.
係啊，其實咧好開心咧，網上崇拜啦，但係咧始終咧人與人咁樣面對面咁樣，我會覺得係最精彩嘅，所以好希望咧4月24號咧可以見到你。
Nadine and I, we are currently in Norway.
Nadine 同埋我咧，依家咧就喺挪威。
We spent a few weeks in Korea visiting her family, and then we're working here from Norway and trying to just relax a little bit as well. But we're very excited. We'll be back in a couple of weeks in Hong Kong and to see everyone again.
係啦，其實之前你嘅幾個星期咧，我哋就去咗韓國咧去探下Nadine嘅家人啦。咁之後咧，我哋而家就嚟到挪威咧做嘢啦，同埋咧就有啲假期咁啦。希望好快幾個禮拜之後咧，我就會再翻到香港同大家見面噶啦。
Today we're going to try doing something a little bit different.
今日咧，我希望可以同大家分享嘅嘢有少少唔一樣啦。
I have my Liverpool cup here, so I will have a good time at least.
咁咧，我而家手上咧有個利物浦足球隊嘅水杯喎，我相信咧我應該係好開心啦。
We're going to be going through a whole psalm today, Psalm 77.
今日咧，我會一齊咧去睇咧詩篇第77章。
And there's so much truth that can be found through Asaph, the psalmist, his process of praying to God.
其實咧，真係喺呢個詩人亞薩咧裏面呢首佢自己作嘅一首詩歌裏面咧，其實咧睇到揾到好多真理。
So we'll read one section and then we'll pick out some truths and then go into the next section.
我哋咧會咁樣分開章節咁去睇啦，咁每一章節我都會咧去攞一啲真理出嚟俾大家知，然後咧去到下一個段落。
And the reading out loud today we'll only read in English. So if you want to read along in Cantonese, make sure to read whilst we're reading in English.
係啊，今日咧我哋就會特別啲咧，淨係咧會將英文嘅金句翻譯會讀出嚟。如果大家想睇中文咧，就當我哋喺講英文嘅時候嚟到一齊咧睇翻中文嘅翻譯啦。
I hope that sounds okay.
我希望咁樣係 OK 啦。
They can't tell us whether or not it's okay, but I see them nodding on the couch at home.
係啊，我相信我依家係睇唔到你哋究竟咩反應嘅，但係我估到咧，你哋咧就喺度點緊頭啊，喺個自己嘅 sofa 上面。
I know everyone is over those types of jokes, so we won't try to be I won't try to be funny.
我相信好多人咧都已經厭倦咗呢啲咁嘅笑話，我其實想試下搞笑啫。
So the first of 5 sections, verse 1 to 3.
係，其實我哋有5段嘅分段嘅，咁我哋依家就睇第一段1至3節。
I cried out to God with my voice, to God with my voice, and he gave ear to me. In the days of my trouble, I sought the Lord. My hand stretched out in the night without ceasing. My soul refused to be comforted. I remembered God and was troubled. I complained and my spirit was overwhelmed. And this psalm, it starts in a similar manner to a lot of the other psalms.
係呢首詩篇嘅開頭咧，其實同其他嘅詩篇開頭都好相似㗎。
It wouldn't be uncommon for Asaph or for David to start off their psalms kind of pouring out their struggles or their pain to God.
其實咧，好似咧其他David 啦同埋亞薩咧，佢哋嘅其他詩篇都好長期都係咁樣咧，就係佢一開始咧就將自己嘅心啊，所有嘅憂慮，所有嘅戰鬥咧，心理戰鬥都會咧好傾到向神去話俾佢聽㗎。
And already here in the first few verses of this psalm, there's so much that we can pick out.
其實喺頭嗰幾句咧，已經有好多咧好重要嘅真理，我哋可以咧攞出嚟去欣賞、去討論。
And the first one that will serve as the foundation for this whole message is this in verse 2. In the day of my trouble, I sought the Lord.
其實咧，但係喺第二節裏面咧，其實已經咧係講緊全個詩篇裏面最重要嘅基礎，就係咧喺一個困難嘅日子裏面咧，我哋咧去尋求神。
if there's one thing that we can learn from Asaph, is that days of trouble must be days of prayer.
係，其實有一樣嘢好緊要，我哋可以向亞薩去學習咧，就係喺一個咧患難嘅日子，就係等於呢一個咧要祈禱嘅日子。
In the days where we have inward trouble or outward trouble, making days of trouble, days of prayer will radically change your life.
係啊，如果咧無論係我哋心裏面有一啲難題，定係外面有好多嘅困難啊，如果我哋能夠咧將呢啲患難嘅日子變成一個禱告嘅日子咧，其實咧一定會咧好改變咗你嘅身。
And so if you are experiencing any trouble, one thing to also make note of is Asaph's prayer posture.
係啊，其實咧，如果你真係依家面對緊一啲咧患難嘅日子嘅時候，你就真係要留意一下咧亞薩嗰個祈禱嘅嗰個狀況，嗰個情況係點樣。
I mean, this wasn't just any prayer.
我其實唔係話佢係一個任何一個禱告。
In verse 2, it says, "My hand was stretched out in the night without ceasing."
喺第二節裏面講，佢就話咧，我整晚咧係展開雙手，伸開雙手去祈禱咧，係冇停止過嘅。
Well, sure, that sounds very holy. It sounds very nice.
係或者你聽起上嚟好似好神聖啦，好正。
If we think about what that really means, it's anything but nice.
其實咧，你真係諗清楚呢句説話嘅情況，其實真係一啲都唔好正嘅。
Well, at least not in the sense of it doesn't make you maybe in the moment feel very warm and cozy. It's not that type of a prayer.
或者你起碼可以想像到佢唔係嗰啲可以令你好溫暖啊、好舒適嘅一個禱告。
Because there are moments in your life where the act of prayer is not necessarily a fun activity.
其實咧好多時候喺你嘅生命嘅某啲時刻啦，你嘅祈禱咧一啲都唔係一啲好舒服、好開心嘅一啲活動嚟嘅。
Where you're gonna have to maybe wait up till everyone's gone to bed.
或者你要等到其他人都全部咧瞓晒覺。
Find your quiet place.
揾你自己一個安靜嘅地方。
And just stretch out your hand throughout the night and just pray.
係就係伸開你張手，成晚咁樣去禱告。
It's nothing holy necessarily about doing that specifically.
係或者咁樣做咧，其實一啲都唔係你所講嘅神聖咯。
But it's a reflection of the type or the earnest or the sincerity kind of in your desire to just kind of break through what you're going through.
其實可能呢個就係一個好重要顯示到你嘅真誠啊，你嗰個好認真嗰個態度，你好想咧突破你依家嘅狀況，或者突破你依家嘅患難之日子。
It's at least what Asaph did, and we are following his journey today.
係啊，或者起碼咧，亞薩係咁樣做緊，而今天我哋就係跟隨緊佢呢個咁樣嘅旅程。
So days of trouble are days of prayer.
其實就係講緊患難嘅日子，其實就係一個禱告嘅日子。
And not just any prayer, they're active prayers.
唔係一個普通嘅祈禱，而係一個咧好有主動性嘅，係好大有能力嘅祈禱。
And here still in the first section, there's a little bit of a turn in Asaph's tone.
其實咧喺個亞薩嗰個表達，佢呢個就係有少少嘅變化咯。
Because in verse 1 he says, "I cried to God and he gave ear to me."
係第一節係咁講，我向神去呼求，神咧就留心傾聽。
In other words, God hears me.
就係意思就係話神咧聽到我哋講嘢喎。
Then in verse 3 it says, "I remembered God and my soul was troubled."
係當咧第三節係咁講，就係當我諗起神嘅時候，我心就煩惱。
It says my soul refused to be comforted.
我嘅心咧其實好反對咧，係不肯被安慰。
Hold up, what did he say?
等陣先，佢講乜嘢啊？
I remembered God and then was troubled? What?
我記得起神嘅，但係諗起神嘅時候，我就覺得好煩躁不安咯。
Now what do you do when you cry out but your soul refuses to take comfort?
係當你喺度呼喊神嘅時候，喺嗰個情況底下，你竟然係咧唔想被安慰。
One of the reasons I like this psalm is because it's so real.
我一個好重要嘅原因，點解咁中意呢篇詩篇，就係因為佢真係好真實。
You know, David and Asaph, they were so good at what it seems like they poured out, their trouble to God, and within 5 minutes, God spoke, and everything was better again.
其實咧，好多時候喺聖經裏面詩篇裏面咧，你見到咧大衛啊或者亞薩咧，佢咧係將佢哋所有嘅心思意念好多煩躁嘅攪擾或者係憂慮咧，即係傾到喺神當中。但係咧係5分鐘之後咧，佢哋就立即咧好似好翻晒啦，完全冇事啦咁樣。
But it doesn't always work that way for me.
但係好多時係喺我嘅狀態底下，未必咧成日都咁樣發生咯。
So the psalmist here, he's earnestly praying. He's sincerely just crying out.
喺呢首詩篇咧，其實就係咧亞薩咧好真實咁樣咧，係呼喊緊神。
Yet his soul remained overwhelmed.
係個心咧依然咧非常之咧係煩躁不安嘅。
And the sense is he's saying, God, I know you are there, but why won't you help me the way I want to be helped?
係啊，佢就同神講話：神啊，你喺度，點解你唔能夠咧，好似我想象嗰種方法去幫助我咧？
Why don't you just remove the obstacle right away?
點解你唔立即咧將我眼前嘅難題咧個阻礙咧係即刻拎走咧？
Now, there will be good news in this message.
喺呢個信息裏面，其實有啲好信息嘅。
We're following the order of the psalm.
我哋咧去跟住咧呢首詩篇嘅流去啊。
But isn't this kind of real too?
係咪一個好真實嘅狀況咧？
And like Asaph, a lot of us, we deal with this kind of a depth and a complexity within ourselves, like Asaph. So it's kind of interesting to take note of how he dealt with that level of complexity.
其實咧，你會見到其實好似我哋都係曾經好似同亞薩一樣，其實喺心嘅深處咧有好多好複雜嘅難題，好複雜嘅情緒要處理。今天我哋就要真正去睇到究竟亞薩係點樣處理佢呢啲咁複雜嘅情緒咧？
And that's probably why he had written Selah at the end of that section, just because he needed to just take some time just to think.
係啊，所以咧，你見到啦呢一段嘅最尾，佢有一個細拉嘅一個意思就係你需要去靜止一陣，安靜一陣，去真係去諗清楚。
So we'll read the second section.
我而家就睇第二部分啦。
And remember to read along if you need to.
你記得咧要讀嗰個中文嘅翻譯啦，如果你需要嘅話。
Verse 4, You hold my eyelids open. I am so troubled that I cannot speak. I've considered the days of old, the years of ancient times. I call to remembrance my song in the night. I meditate within my heart, and my spirit makes a diligent search. And here, the next section continues down the similar kind of tone of voice to the first one.
係，其實咧喺第二個部分，其實佢嗰首詩嘅詩意啦，或者佢嗰個語氣態度同第一部分係相似嘅。
And again, there's so much being revealed.
係，但係一樣咧，都係好多嘢咧，去揭示俾我哋知道。
And I love the first part of verse 4.
我好中意咧第4節嘅第一個部分。
Where it says, You hold my eyelids open.
係就話咧，你叫我眼睛不能閉上。
And I think this is someone who has a healthy understanding of God's grace deals with trouble and frustration.
其實呢個係一個好健康嘅一個狀態底下咧，明白咧神係點樣幫我哋咧解決我哋眼前嘅問題。
In the midst of hardship, in the midst of confusion, there's a knowing that He still holds me up.
係，其實就係一個好困難咧，好迷茫嘅時候啦，神咧依然咧係照顧住我哋，看顧緊我哋嘅。
Now we don't need to have all the answers to know that He is in control.
我哋其實唔需要咧，今天又即刻有個答案，但係我哋需要知道佢係掌權嘅。
I'm going to say that again because this truth, getting this truth kind of into you could potentially really, really impact your life.
係，你記住一樣嘢就係頭先嗰個真理係真係要係讓你心裏面好清楚、好明白，因為呢個真係對你嘅人生有好大嘅影響。
We don't need to have all the answers to know that He is in control.
我哋唔需要咧去完全地知道晒所有問題嘅答案，只需要知道我哋嘅神咧係完全咁掌權。
Now hear this. We also don't need to see our breakthrough to know that He is good.
我哋唔需要咧經過我哋有什麼突破之明白神係美善嘅。
Our understanding of His goodness shouldn't come exclusively from experiencing breakthrough or miracles.
我哋好明白神嗰個大能唔需要係因為經過咗我哋一啲佢嘅神蹟奇事啊，或者佢俾我哋嘅恩典。
Well, those things, it's essentially God's love on display, yes?
係啊，呢啲基本上神都係好想咧去顯示俾我哋知道，或者係俾我哋經歷啦。
But our understanding of his goodness and his character comes through intimacy with him.
我哋好明白佢嗰個特性或者佢嘅性格特質係單只需要我哋能夠同神有一個親密嘅連結就可以知道啦。
And that intimacy, that can take place regardless of your circumstances, with trouble or without trouble.
其實呢一個咁樣親密嘅關係係唔需要咧去即係去理會佢你依家嘅狀況係點樣，你都可以有呢種咁親密嘅關係。
In fact, if we think that he is good based on what he does for us,
係基本上，如果咧你知道佢嘅美善嘅，只需要知道佢去為我哋所做嘅一切事情。
Then when things go wrong, we don't really know what to hold on to.
係咁樣咧，當我哋有時候見到事情係我唔係我哋想象咁發展，我哋都唔知道點樣捉緊啊。
So knowing that he is good and that he has the answers regardless of circumstances, that will help us in days of hardship.
係我要明白咧，神嗰個佢嗰個大能咧，其實係要清楚知道當我哋有經歷患難嘅時候，我哋可以咧係捉緊點樣捉緊。
Because even if you don't see your breakthrough right away, you know that he is still good and he holds your eyelids open.
係你記住，當你嗰個突破仲未嚟到嘅時候，你都要明白一點，就係神咧依然咧看顧緊你，係讓你打開嘅眼睛。
And it's good that Asaph knows this because as he continues, his heart cry intensifies.
係其實咧好彩咧，亞撒係知道呢一點嘅，而且咧當佢繼續去敬拜，繼續去向神呼求嘅時候咧，佢嘅心就知道啦。
In verse 6, there's one of the first major shifts.
喺第6節係一個好大嘅轉變。
He says, I meditate within my heart and my spirit makes diligent search.
係啊，其實咧第6節係咁講，我嘅心咧係苦心自問去默想啊，而我心咧好細細咁去視察。
And here's another truth that we can take out from Asaph's psalm.
我哋咧可以喺呢度咧睇到另外一個真理啊。
When your soul refuses to be comforted, go deeper.
如果你真係好唔想咧被安慰，咁你就繼續去更加深入去默想神嘅話。
One thing that we can often forget, or one thing that we can do, is we confuse our spirits, our inner man, with our soul.
係啦，其實有時候咧，我就會將我哋自己嘅內人啦，或者係我嘅 spirit 啦，我哋嘅靈咧去矛盾啊。
Our soul, that's our emotion, that's our feelings, our personality, and our spirit, that's our inner man that is always in perfect condition.
係啊，喺我哋嘅內人，我哋嘅靈咧，其實咧長期咧就係一個好完美嘅狀態，但係咧我嘅靈啊，我哋嘅靈魂啊，其實咧長期就係可能有感情啦，會有難題啦，會有唔同嘅高低。
Now, we also know that our souls are meant to have peace. They are meant to find comfort, which is the basis of Asaph's entire frustration.
其實咧，我哋頭先就講啦，其實亞撒同我哋一樣咧，其實我哋都同佢一樣，好多嘅唔同嘅心裏面嘅鬥爭，有好多唔同嘅難題，好困擾。
But he knew that he needed to go one level deeper in order to find that peace.
係，但係咧，佢好清楚知道咯，佢要更深入咧，去進入嗰個心深處，去揾到真正嘅平安。
And the word heart, he says, I meditate within my heart. That word heart means lebab, and it literally means inner man.
其實咧，佢金句裏面咁講咧，就係咧用我嘅心咧去默想，其實意思就係講緊佢裏面嘅內人啊。
So I meditate within my inner man, and my spirit makes diligent search.
係啊，咁就話咧，用我裏面嘅內人咧去默想啦，而我嘅靈咧，我嘅靈咁咧就去慢慢去細察。
So a sign of maturity is knowing that when your soul is troubled and stays troubled, to find the solution, we need to pray in the Spirit.
係就係話，當你嘅靈咧係有呢個靈魂咧係有嘅問題、有難題嘅時候，你要即係一個成熟人就要知道點樣咧，用我哋嘅靈咧去祈禱。
And what does that look like?
你覺得點樣呢？
That's where we come before the Lord and we sit at His feet.
係，所以我哋去到神嘅寶座面前咧，坐低喺佢嘅腳上面。
It's going to your quiet place, turning off your phones, and just seeking Him.
係就係刪掉你嘅電話，係啦，喺一個安靜嘅地方，淨係單單去尋求神。
And it's probably the very last thing that your troubled soul will want to do, which is exactly why we need to do it.
係呢個咧，就係咧你嘅好煩擾嘅心咧，係需要咧係最後一個最重要嘅嘢去做嘅。
So we're going to read the next section.
我哋會睇第二部分、第三部分。
And this is the diligent search he's referring to in verse 6.
呢個就係話咧，我哋要細心去省察自己嘅一個解釋。
So here he is. Will the Lord cast off forever? And will he be favorable no more? Has his mercy ceased forever? Has his promise failed forevermore? Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he in anger shut up his tender mercies? Selah. And this is this middle text here. This is the tipping point of Asaph's journey.
係呢個咧就係咧呢個亞撒呢一個咧好重要嘅一個引爆點啊。
Now this could go either way.
可以係兩個方向嘅。
And we're going to look at which way Asaph went.
究竟我哋要睇下究竟亞撒係去咗邊個方向行啊？
But before we get into it, if you've grown up in maybe a religious school or a religious environment, you've probably been told that in order to be a good Christian, you really shouldn't be asking the sort of questions that Asaph was asking.
係或者你從小咧係一啲有基督教信仰嘅學校長大或者環境長大，你可能會被咧係教育咧為有啲問題咧，你係即係好似亞撒會問嘅問題，你係唔應該問嘅喎。
Shouldn't really have those types of doubts or concerns.
係啊，其實你唔應該有呢啲咁樣嘅即係你唔應該諗呢啲嘢咯。
I mean, it's a sign of weakness.
係咧一個咧好軟弱、好懦弱嘅表現。
And it's always a little awkward, when Christians are asking these hard questions, you don't really know what to do with it.
係或者咧好似啲基督徒問呢啲問題，會覺得好奇怪，都唔知問完都唔知有咩答案。我唔應該問呢啲問題。
It's better to just pretend you have everything together.
係或者你應該最好咧就係扮晒咧乜嘢都好好啦，冇問題啦咁樣。
And what happened? First of all, can anyone recognize that? Anyone been there?
係啊，我想問下大家好唔好啊？大家有冇發現到呢啲咁嘅狀況咧？
I mean, okay, and what happens is, so we have these burdens.
所以我哋每個人有呢啲咁負擔啦。
We have these achings in our soul that don't go away.
係或者我哋心裏面有好多呢啲好奇怪嘅諗法。
And we walk around being condemned, feeling condemned because we have questions about God, but we can't approach God to deal with how we're feeling, and we can't approach Him with these questions when He's the very solution we need.
係或者咧，我哋覺得咧被責怪啦，我哋有心裏面呢個問題，而呢啲問題其實我哋其實係可以同神去傾吐，或者係從神度揾到答案，而佢係揾到佢會俾到一個最好嘅方法俾我哋嘅。
How thankful can we be then that Asaph has given us a blueprint in how to deal with questions, doubts, and unbelief?
係啊，其實咧就係我哋真係好感恩，點解？因為咧亞撒就俾咗一個好好嘅方法啦，一個咧嘅路程咧，俾我哋知道咧，我哋點樣可以揾到我哋解決嘅問題嘅方法，就係透過我哋嘅神啊。
Because having doubts, that's not the issue. Having trouble that's not the issue either.
係其實咧我哋有懷疑，或者我哋覺得對神係有一個疑問嘅時候，其實唔係一個大問題嚟嘅。
And we'll expand on it in verse 10 here.
我哋咧會喺第10節裏面解釋。
And we'll read the whole section later, but it starts off by saying, and Asaph is saying, and I said, this is my anguish.
係啊，其實咧亞撒咧喺第10節係咁樣講，呢個咧就係我嘅困難啦。
He had asked these questions, then he came to a point where he concluded his questioning by saying, that's my anguish.
係啦，其實咧佢就係開始係咁講，同埋結尾都咁講，呢個就係我個苦惱啦。
He had put it all out there.
佢將我哋佢心咧全部傾到出嚟。
And he knew better than to just go around in circles with the same questions.
佢知道咧唔可以淨係咧將喺個難題當中咧不斷去糾轉啊。
He said his piece, and then he says, "But I will remember the years of the right hand of the Most High."
但係咧，佢係咁講嘅，就係咧，佢記得啦，就係嗰個咧喺寶座上面嗰個右手啦，係最高嘅。
Now there was a gap between what Asaph believed and what Asaph felt.
其實咧有一個咧亞薩嘅嗰個信念同埋亞薩可以嗰個真實嘅狀況，其實有一個分區一個空間。
And this psalm is essentially how to deal with that gap.
係啦，其實就係要揾緊一個點樣去咧解決呢個將呢個距離咧去拉近嘅方法。
And I think we've all been there.
其實我相信我哋每一個人都經歷咗呢個狀況啦。
We've said something along the lines of, "God, I know you've called me here, but why is it so hard here?"
係啊，或者我哋都有曾經類似嘅諗法，就係咧神啊，你呼召我嚟到呢一度，但係究竟點解嚟到呢度係咁困難嘅咧？
I believe that you have me here, but this is how I feel.
係，我相信你係呼召我嚟到呢度，但係呢個真係我真實嘅感受啊。
So I know you're faithful, but why do I feel overlooked and ignored?
係啊，我感受到，我知道咧係你一個信實嘅神，但係點解我去感受到咧，我係被忽略咧，被忽視嘅？
Or a big one,
或者個大啲
God,
嘅。
I know you're the healer, God, but why haven't I seen my healing yet?
係啊，我知道你一個咧醫治嘅神啊，但係點解我個病，我嘅傷痛未被醫治咧？
And despite knowing that God is good, that he is faithful, that he is healer, and that he has good plans for me, there will be moments in your life where that knowing will be put to test.
係啊，或者你相信咧，你知道神係最美善咧，佢係俾我哋最好嘅計劃啦。但係你都會經歷一個生命嘅時刻啦，你係會你頭先所講嘅信心啊，所講嘅信念都會被測驗。
In other words, there will be times where the line between what we know to be true and what we feel will blur, and it'll be hard to know which is true, and what side that you hold on to will have deep impact on your life.
其實咧就係一個時間嘅情況底下咧，你係頭先所講嘅信念同埋你真實經歷嘅都會有一個咧好模糊嘅一個感受嘅嗰個情況底下，你站在哪一邊咧，就會影響咗你未來嘅發展啦。
Because doubt and questions, they will come. I guarantee it.
我肯定咧呢個情況咧一定會發生喺你嘅身上嘅。
But do we set up camp in our questions? Or do we use the questions, like Asaph, to springboard ourselves into our breakthrough?
其實咧，你就可以去想像啦，你究竟會係喺你嘅個難題咁嘅狀況底下喺度紮營，即係不前進啦，定係咧你好似亞薩咁將自己咧帶喺一個咧係一個向前嘅一個方向。
So now we'll read the whole of the second to last section. It says here, "And I said, this is my anguish, but I will remember the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember your wonders of old, and I will meditate on all your work and talk of your deeds." So if today's message, if you feel like you can relate to any of this, be encouraged today.
係啊，或者今日嘅所講嘅信息咧，你感受到咧，你都有同樣嘅經歷啦。我都希望咧，你係被鼓勵㗎。
In fact, what Asaph has just done is given us a 3-step process to encouragement.
係啊，其實咧，亞薩嘅經歷咧，其實話俾我聽，有3個步驟咧，你可以咧去處理呢家問題嘅。
He says, "I will remember your wonder."
係啦，佢第一個就話咧，我會記得咧你為我所做嘅一啲神蹟奇事。
Meditate on your work.
係啦，默想你嘅話語。
And talk of your deeds.
而且咧係將你嘅你所應許嘅係會咧去同你去交流。
Remember, meditate, talk.
記得啦，默想啦，同埋要交流要講嘅。
Nice. That was probably a hard one. So In other words, when things aren't going your way, sometimes the very best thing you can do for yourself is to simply go back and remember what God has done in your life.
其實咧好多時候咧就好簡單，就係當你自己去回想神喺你嘅生命裏面咧所為你所做嘅一切。
Going back over the times He's been faithful, over the breakthroughs, over the times you felt divine peace.
係啊，就係嗰啲日子咧，神咧俾你帶來你覺得佢好就係信實嘅，係啊，帶嚟一啲突破啦，同埋咧令你感受到呢個即係超自然嘅平安。
And once it's in our minds, we take time to reflect and to meditate on His work.
而且咧，我哋要花時間咧喺我哋嘅腦袋裏面咧去默想佢嘅話語。
Through worship, through prayer, to just sitting by His feet.
或者咧係透過祈禱啦，透過敬拜，或者就係單單咧坐喺神嘅腳嘅前面。
We soak in the character of God that enabled those breakthroughs to happen in your life.
係啦，就係啦，我哋咧喺神嗰個特質裏面咧去浸沉啊，係啦，係即係將佢嘅即係佢嘅美善咧帶出嚟。
And now it's not just in your mind, now it's in your spirit. And now that it's alive in your spirit, we talk about it.
係啊，即係當呢啲咁樣嘅咁強嘅真理咧，唔單止喺你嘅腦袋當中，而係咧你要喺你嘅靈裏面咧，然後咧你要大聲去講出嚟，宣告出嚟。
Saying something out loud has a way of creating commitment.
係有啲嘢咧，大聲講出嚟，就係一個方法咧，令到咧去宣告呢個咧係一個好大嘅承諾。
You own it. It's not just in your head.
你係屬於你擁有佢，唔係淨係單單喺你嘅頭腦裏面。
So if you're like Asaph, or if have questions or frustrations, this 3-step process is what Asaph used to get out of his funk.
係啊，其實咧就係如果你有同亞薩一樣咁嘅狀況，呢個就係好似亞薩嘅呢個3部曲，呢個三個步驟啦，其實就可以咧帶你咧離開呢個咁樣嘅難題啦。
He had a choice. Do I stay in this pit of questioning, or do I now remember your works, meditate on it, speak it out, and use it to allow it to breathe life into me again, to springboard me to where I need to be?
係，你就係一個選擇啊！你就可以咧留喺呢個難題當中嚇，不斷兜轉啦嚇。又或者咧，你就可以好似亞薩一樣啦，就用一個咧咁樣嘅踏跳板，係咧幫助你咧去到呢個你應該去個方向嘅嗰個道路。
Did things change immediately for Asaph? I don't know.
係啊，好似亞薩咁，係咪佢嗰個狀況係突然間被改變咧？我唔知道。
But Asaph changed.
但係咧，亞薩自己就改變咗啦。
Now, I don't know if kind of praying for the breakthrough, praying for it is necessarily the best. Okay, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, so I'll try to rephrase that, and we won't edit this. All right, we'll say it again. Maybe instead of praying for your breakthrough, why don't you just spend time with God?
或者咧。你可能有時係為咗你嘅突破去祈禱，不如你就試下係同神咧去相處。
Or do both.
或者兩個一齊做啊。
This is a challenge, and I'm going off notes, and you can tell.
係呢個就係我俾你個新嘅挑戰。
But I'm feeling like there's something on this.
我覺得有樣嘢。
That many of you've kind of been praying for something very specific for God to remove from or add to your life.
我覺得咧，你哋咧係即係為咗一啲好特別嘅事情，係去向神求啊，或者拎走佢，或者咧擺喺你嘅生命當中。
Now I don't know why things haven't changed or been taken away or added.
我唔知道咧，點解要咁做，或者我唔知道點解要拎走呢啲嘢啦。
But I encourage you to kind of put an end to your questioning. Maybe change your prayer a little bit and just spend time with Him and just say, God, whatever it is you want to speak to me, I'm open, whatever it is.
係啊，或者咧，我鼓勵你就係咧，即係停止咧去不斷向神去發問啊，而係咧去同神講啦，啊神啊，無論你想同我講乜嘢，我係好開放嘅。總之你想同我講嘅任何嘢，我都會去去搞開傾聽。
Maybe that was a word for someone, I don't know, but we're going to go back to our notes here.
或者你頭先所講説話係對某一啲人講嘅，不過唔緊要啦，我哋都而家翻去咧，我哋嘅內容先。
And we're almost done with today's message.
我哋咧差唔多完㗎啦。
And we're going to read one pretty long section to conclude, and then we're going to wrap up.
係我哋咧會講一段比較長嘅經文，然後咧我哋就會做總結。
So this is the end of Asaph's prayer to God.
呢個咧就係咧亞薩嘅去神嘅嗰個祈禱嘅最尾嗰部分。
He's let God know what his frustrations are.
佢咧好即係打開嘅心咧，俾神知道啦，究竟佢嗰個掙扎喺邊度。
He's let God know this is what I'm dealing with. These are my questions. These are my doubts.
係啊，佢想讓神知道呢個就係我嘅懷疑，呢個係我嘅問題，呢個就係我咧依家要處理嘅狀況。
And he said, that's it, but I choose to remember your work regardless of if things change for me or not.
係啊，其實咧最尾佢就話咧，係無論你個依家嘅狀況有冇被改變，我都選擇去相信你。
And he concludes by praising God with the following next 8 verses.
係咧，佢最尾咧選擇咧去用咧讚美去結束佢同神嘅祈禱，就係嚟緊呢8句啦。
He says, your way, O God, is in the sanctuary. Who is so great a God as our God? You are the God who does wonders. You have declared your strength among the peoples. You have with your arm redeemed your people, the sons of Jacob and Joseph. The waters saw you, O God. The waters saw you, and they were afraid. The depths also trembled. The clouds poured out water. The sky sent out a sound. Your arrows also flashed about. The voice of your thunder was in the whirlwind. The lightnings lit up the world. The earth trembled and shook. Your way was in the seas. Your path is in the great waters, and your footsteps were not known. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. And wow, this is Asaph stepping into a new direction.
呢個咧就係咧亞薩咧係向住新嘅方向去向前行。
So today is a day of encouragement for you.
今日咧就係去俾大家一個好大嘅鼓勵啊！
Asaph was on the verge of giving up.
係其實佢亞薩咧其實差唔多去到一個邊緣，佢要放棄㗎啦。
But he made sure that his days of trouble were days of prayer.
但佢肯定咧，讓自己咧患難嘅日子變成一個祈禱嘅日子。
He prayed even when he didn't feel like praying.
佢咧即係選擇去禱告啊，即使佢覺得呢個唔係佢可以禱告嘅日子。
He wasn't ashamed of his doubts. He brought them before God and said his piece.
佢咧唔覺得咧自己嘅懷疑係值得咧係需要羞恥，而佢咧將佢呢啲咁所有嘅懷疑啊問題都擺到神嘅面前。
But he knew better than to stay in his sulking. He remembered, he meditated, and he talked about the wonderful works of God.
佢咧就選擇咧係唔停留喺個問題當中，而係咧佢選擇去想念，去記起咧神以前咧為佢所做嘅一切，係去選擇去默想神嘅話，最尾咧選擇去宣告啊，去宣講咧神俾佢嘅計劃。
And we are praying to the very same God who performed those works.
係啊，其實我哋咧同亞薩一樣咧，向緊同一個神咧去祈求啊，係咧嗰個神咧係會咧去實踐佢所講嘅。
To the God who makes the earth shake and tremble, who split the seas and controls the skies, the clouds, and the waters.
係咧，我哋就係共同嗰個神咧，就係可以咧將咧所有咧地去震盪，去大海去分開，係將即係創造萬物嗰位神。
And the very same God is for you.
係啊，相同一位嘅神都係會咧去傾向我哋。
He never lost control, not even for a second.
佢永遠啊冇一秒鐘咧，佢會咧失去佢嘅主權。
And even in the midst of your troubles or your questions, he doesn't change.
係，就算你咧喺困難當中，你喺一個咧迷惘當中，佢都不會改變嘅。
He is still for you.
佢依然咧會為着你好啊。
He is still on the throne.
佢依然咧在寶座上面。
And he's still working for you and me today.
佢今天咧繼續為着我同埋你咧係繼續去動工。
No, this psalm doesn't conclude by saying Asaph just immediately things got better and that he never faced these things again.
係呢首詩篇唔係講咧話亞薩咧依家咧就即刻咧所有難題唔見晒啦，佢嘅情況改變咗，以後咧都不再咧重複佢面對呢啲難題，唔係咁講㗎。
And we don't always know why things are the way they are.
我哋都唔知道咧，究竟佢狀況點解會咁樣啦。
Now, this is a messy, down-to-earth, real moment in his life that most of us listening can probably relate to.
係，其實呢個狀況就係呢一個非常之混亂啦，好真實嘅一個生命嘅狀態，係同我哋好多人咧都好可能會經歷過嘅。
But remember, in the midst of everything, he holds your eyelids open.
係，你記住一樣嘢就係咧，即係當呢啲咁混亂嘅狀態，或者呢啲咁唔迷茫嘅狀態嘅時候，神咧依然咧將你眼睛打開喎。
He is your strength.
係啊，因為神就係你嘅力量。
He hasn't called you to figure it all out.
其實咧，佢唔係叫你咧自己去解決所有問題啊。
That's not your role.
唔係你嘅角色。
Nor are you meant to be carrying the weight of all of this.
其實咧，你唔係咧被創造係要去承擔所有呢啲咁大嘅重擔。
He's not afraid of your burdens.
佢唔係咧，神係唔會驚你所有嘅負擔。
He's not afraid of your questions.
佢唔會為咗你嘅問題咧好驚恐啊。
He's standing there saying, give it to me. Give me your questions. Give me your burdens. Give me the weight that you're carrying. Let me carry it for you.
係，佢就喺我哋面前站住，就話將你嘅所有疑問啦、問題啦、你嘅重擔啊、你一切憂慮都交俾我。我依家就喺度咧，等緊你去幫助你去承擔呢條所有一切。
Because he is the God of breakthrough, who's promised to remain faithful to you.
係呢個咧，我哋嘅神咧就係嗰個咧係願意成日為我哋孭重擔，而且咧係應許咧佢會俾呢個突破我哋嘅嗰位神。
And his desire is to bring you and to bring me from glory into a higher glory.
佢嘅慾望，佢嘅想法，其實就係讓我哋帶你去榮耀嘅上面嘅更加嘅榮耀嘅地方。
He has wonderful things in store for you, my friend.
係啊嘛，我嘅朋友啊，佢哋真係為咗我哋有準備咗一個更加好嘅一堆美麗嘅事，一堆好好計劃帶緊嚟。
Now, this is good news.
呢個係個好消息。
But if maybe you're not in a moment in your life where you're necessarily feeling the weight of the trouble, we're going to pray either way.
我哋咧可能咧要咁樣祈禱啦，係或者你喺一個情況係好大困難，或者係未必有一間好大嘅難阻啦。
And regardless of if you're in or out of trouble, just join in anyway.
係無論你有冇呢啲咁嘅問題啊難阻，其實你都要一齊去一齊合一嘅禱告。
You can either pray for yourself or just pray for someone that comes to mind.
係你可以為你自己祈禱，或者咧係為一個咧你依家腦裏面你係想像，即係諗到一個人啦、朋友啦去禱告。
And we say, God, thank you for being faithful.
神啊，多謝你咧成為一個信實嘅神。
Thank you that you never lost control.
係多謝你，你永遠都唔會失去你嘅主權啊！
Even in my darkest nights,
係就算喺我最黑暗嘅夜晚當中，
you are near.
你係好近㗎。
God, I choose to look at you.
神啊，我選擇去仰望你。
God, I don't have everything figured out yet.
神啊，或者我未即係尋求到我所有疑問問題嘅答案。
But now I choose to give that to you.
但我依家咧選擇將呢啲所謂疑問咧都交俾你。
I give you my burdens, I give you my questions.
我將所有嘅問題啦，所有擔憂啊，所有重擔都交俾你。
And I just sit at your feet.
係，我只係單單咧坐在你嘅跟前。
Completely open to what you want to say to me.
係啦，即係完全咁打開咧，係接受你將俾我嘅話語或者你嘅説話。
Thank you that you are so good.
多謝主，你真係非常之好。
Jesus' name, amen.
奉主耶穌名求，阿門。
I hope that was okay, a little different today.
希望咧大家都覺得今天嘅分享咧係幾好啦，因為有少少唔一樣。
We're going to close by doing the giving.
我依家咧就用呢個咧奉獻嚟作結。
And one thing I want to say about the giving is
今日咧，
this.
我哋想講嘅關於奉獻嘅嘢咧，
I want to say thank you for being so faithful throughout this season.
係我要講咧，同大家講多謝，因為咧喺呢個咁嘅季節，大家都依然好信實。
We know that the church does important work.
我知道咧，教會做咗啲好重要嘅嘢咯。
And over the last few weeks, we've heard about some things that we're helping out in our local community and in Ukraine.
係咧，即係過去嗰幾星期啦，我哋喺我哋嘅區，我哋自己教會所處嘅區域裏面啦，同埋我哋會客裏面都做咗唔同嘅嘢。
And I just want to thank you for your faithfulness.
我真係想單單去多謝大家嘅信心，大家嘅信實。
We're sowing into a very rich kingdom.
我哋一齊咧去到一個好富有嘅一個國度啊，神嘅國度。
And you can put the 3 ways to give up on the screen.
而家咧可以大家咧喺睇到網上我哋嘅熒光網上面咧有3個咧呢個奉獻嘅方法。
Use PayPal, CrossPay, or do a bank transfer.
係啦，我哋可以用 PayPal 啦，我哋可以用呢個 CrossPay 嘅 Apps 啦，同埋我哋可以用銀行轉帳嘅方法。
All right, well, maybe you're still doing that, but we'll conclude anyway. Thank you for listening today.
多謝大家今日咧收睇啦。
And if you're not on the info channel yet, you can scan the QR code and you will get directed there and you'll stay up to date on everything that's happening at church.
係或者你仲未咧去到我哋嘅教會嘅一個資訊嘅一個溝通嘅WhatsApp group 啦，咁你就可以掃翻今日我哋喺網上面見到呢個咧 QR code， 咁你就要去到咧我哋教會咧一條經常咧係 update 我哋自己教會資訊嘅一個溝通嘅渠道嘅。
Have a wonderful week if you're watching live.
係啦，咁咧希望你如果你依家喺度睇緊嘅，祝福你啊一個美好嘅星期。
Or have a continued good week if you're watching a little later.
或者咧，如果你遲啲至睇嘅話，你都繼續希望你有一個繼續美好嘅星期。
Take care and see you.
係啊，大家保重，遲啲見。